Okay, welcome to the Public Works and Workforce Services Committee meeting. We have a pink to be added to the agenda, which is a summary of a presentation, which coming right up by Colin and Doylend. So with the addition of the pink, is there any additions or changes in the agenda? Moved by Mary Little, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favour? All right, first presentation, we have a couple tonight. This is from Colin Doylend, the Director of Land Development and Acquisitions, BC Indigenous Housing Society, combining affordable housing with the new Firehall. So, thanks for being here. Yeah, if you can just speak into the mic, that'd be great.
Sure, there we go. I'm taller than the mic. Thank you very much for having me today. Very much appreciated. And this is not necessarily a summary of the presentation, but just a summary of the sources of potential funding as it relates to the concept that I'll just discuss briefly. So you're left with some substance on where might you find additional resources to advance such a discussion. Yeah. So open to questions, but I can give a quick summary of what the concept would be. Hearing about the development for the new Firehall and the need and the dollars that have been already brought forward from council to look at the feasibility of a new Firehall. I thought it of interest to bring forward the concept of putting housing on the same site as the Firehall footprint as it is today. It's a theme that you're seeing in many municipalities across Canada and the US right now, about leveraging the public asset and putting housing on top. We just saw that in Victoria, Vancouver, even Washington, DC, Calgary as an example. Those are larger municipalities with a larger footprint, of course, so it's much more larger unit count, but still the theme, I think, is important in terms of there would be an opportunity, I believe, for council to consider putting a modest amount of units either on top of the Firehall or beside the Firehall, and then you'd be able to provide some very much needed housing for the demographic of either first responders or what have you chose to do. And so that was the background, of course, with my housing society. We're one of Canada's, we're one of British Columbia's largest affordable housing providers. We have about 22 buildings, about 1,000 units. We mostly operate in Vancouver, but we're expanding. We're formerly called Vancouver Native Housing. But we wanted to provide our capacity and resources in a number of places. Not to say that you have to work with us, but I just wanted to provide that this is the concept. So I've looked at the site, looked at the opportunity, and it would just seem, I love Metchosin, love this area. My wife grew up here running the Weirs Beach campground. My boys go to Westmont. I sit on the board of the Westmont Metchosin Westmont Montessori School. And so just wanted to see if we could impact the community as best we could, provide something that was so desperately needed. And I'll open the questions and any considerations that you might have, and just to advance this interesting idea and leave you with some resources for funding. Be it there be 3 immediate opportunities for funding. You'll see, and I've got extra copies if anybody wants some. With the CEPF, they have a seed fund. And then BC Housing has something called the Property Development Fund, and then Van City also has some funding available for looking at the capacity and feasibilities of a housing development such as this. And then later in that brief, you'll see a longer list of more development sources of funding for actually building it out. So the concept is, if you added affordable housing or housing to the mix, and you could even do affordable homeownership program, it's a whole mix of things you could consider. It would bring additional resources to council to supplement the cost of redeveloping the Firehall. And there is a scenario in which if you built enough of the affordable housing, BC Housing might be in a position to actually 100% finance the build out, because it had enough affordable housing units, and you were bringing enough of a contribution from a council that they could finance the complete redevelopment of the site, which would then put council in a very favorable position to not have to finance itself for the redevelopment of the Firehall. If you put enough housing there, there's a number of ways of looking at the feasibility of such as that, but that was an interesting opportunity. I think that's something that a lot of other municipalities have looked at doing and have done, as I mentioned before. to leverage the asset that you have, and to look at and open up, as a result of that, open up other funding opportunities and financing opportunities that wouldn't normally exist. It was just the redevelopment of a fire hall. If you add housing to it, then you can access the mass amounts of housing dollars that have been made available across the province and the rest of the country. So I thought that was a fiscally responsible way of presenting the solution that also provides that net benefit of housing to your community.
Great, thank you. Well, council questions for Mr. Doylend. Okay, Councillor Shooten.
So I've heard whispers and rumors of talk about housing on the Firehall, but I don't know more than that, and how many we might consider, like, and again, sort of costs, like what the economics of that all are. So I wonder what the timing is to get Councillor, this committee, more information about what's being considered. Is it 4 homes, 2 homes, 3 homes, 10?
Well, we had quite a discussion about this at the Firehall Steering Committee meeting, and and you did mention approximately how many houses that or housing units might be feasible, and as well as the fact that those units could be directed to firefighters or farm workers or things like that, and as well talked about a starting point, like where council starts, and that possibly we could, whether we decided to go ahead with something like that or not, we could potentially also get funding for a consultant.
Yes, yeah, so the funding for a consultant would come from the CEPF fund or the BC Housing Property Development Fund or Advanced City to supplement the capacity dollars or funding feasibility dollars that you've already indicated or provided for. In terms of the final numbers, that's up for council's decision on the number of units. I've done some assessment of what you could do, but I was working off my assumptions, not necessarily the facts of assumptions of council. So I was just saying, hey, is there a possibility here? And yes, there is. There definitely is. So it would be my thought that it would be recommended to work on the feasibility to find out what is possible, what is acceptable for the community and council of what you could do on this site, and meet that those financial metrics, but also the unit metrics that make it amenable.
Great.
So as we already have a feasibility study, about to happen for the fire hall, we could just expand it.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as a result of that, probably garner more funding if you wanted it for feasibility, because of you're looking at housing from those 3 sources.
Right. Any other questions?
Colin, I had a question just about the issue of who might live in the housing. So I wonder if you know about this. I've heard that you could set up like this idea where you rent specifically to workers who are, or in this case it would be firefighters possibly. And then what happens if they then leave the firefighting group here in Metchosin? I understand as a landlord you can't then ask them to leave their residence to free it up for another firefighter. Is that correct or incorrect? Do you know about those rules?
It all depends how you set up the tenancy in the first place. And then you get an exemption from the Residential Tenancy Board for the purposes of employment-based staff housing. So if you set up that expectation that the housing is as a result of your employment, and you put things in place and expectations, and you get the exemptions needed, that you can make that happen and work for both parties. It's after the fact, after you enter into a regular tenancy agreement, that you can't go back according to the law. So as long as you did it from the outset with the right expectations and abiding by that rule set or those exemptions, you're okay.
Thanks, that seems to make sense. So it's the nature of the contract that's made between the tenant and the landlord.
Yeah, and the exemptions that you get and the pre-approval for such exemptions from the residential tenancy branch.
And so if that was kind of the drive behind doing housing, there are a number of different ideas, but that's one of them. Would we be best to approach the provincial government at the moment and ask them about that exemption possibility?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think the provincial government would be quite excited about the example and case study that this would present for all our rural municipalities throughout BC to leverage your public asset, your asset like a fire hall, to provide something so desperately needed in the communities. I just think it makes a lot of sense, and I think the province would probably look to provide resources, in my experience, to help make this a success.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate your guidance. How many, I'm trying to pin you down here, how many affordable units do you think would be required in order for us to get money for the rebuild?
Yeah. Well, I think you'd need more than 5. But you'd want to look at what your overall cost of your Firehall is going to be versus the overall cost of building the additional units. And then you work out the financials from that. Of course, I'm going to say putting as many units as possible as you can always makes more financial sense. But you also don't want to necessarily always do that because you want to meet the greater other needs of the community as well in terms of look and feel. So I'm very cognizant of that in Metchosin. So I think that I'd love to be pinned down on an answer because then I'd have all the facts to provide you that. But unfortunately, I don't have the facts, so I couldn't, in good faith, give you a number that would make sense. Other than I think you'd get all those answers from a strong feasibility that properly incorporated the affordable housing considerations. The trick is it's how many units. It's also maybe how many bedrooms. Because units can make 1, 2, 3 bedroom, 4 bedrooms, depending on your housing needs. So sometimes when people talk about units, that doesn't talk about the actual number of people you're serving. So I think they're both considerations.
Okay. And also, yeah, I think this is a great idea. It's a perfect time now that we're heading into the feasibility study to expand that. We don't have the money to do the complete rebuild right now. We've got some, but we don't have very much. So I think it's great timing. I'd also be interested to hear what the fire chief has to say regarding this. This is her domain, and so I'd like to hear her comments if she's here in the audience. That's okay?
Yeah, so I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm here for any other questions.
And the other, before you go, so the first step then would be to investigate the seed funding.
The three sources: the seed funding, the property development funding from BC Housing, and also the additional funding from Van City.
Van City. Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. I also forgot. There's also funding from FCM. Federation of Community Municipalities, in the social affordable housing. They have pilot dollars and feasibility dollars as well. I listed it, I just forgot to mention it to you. So there's 4 sources of potential additional feasibility funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Chief Dunlop, would you care to throw in your 2 cents worth?
Well, good evening. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. Being able to bring housing to responders is needed, not just in Metchosin, but the entire Westshore. It's an issue. My firefighters who have heard about this, I've already got, quite a few that would love to participate in something like this. This also, if you take it from another aspect, depending on how it all works out, that it could also provide us cost savings in other ways. Take, for instance, our fire underwriter survey. Being able to house and have firefighters at the hall 24/7 can significantly reduce our rating, in which case all your property insurance can significantly decrease as well. So there are other aspects of having these responders in the hall responding to calls at night, when typically they have to drive 8 to 10 minutes to get to the hall, to then get in a truck and travel another 8 to 10 minutes to get to you. Having them at the hall responding directly, that takes them down into that 8-minute response time, which is huge. So there's a lot of not just safety but also cost-effective measures that this would certainly bring to the table.
Thanks.
The other thing that I think is really cool about it is that this is something that we wanted to look at in closer detail. There's no other fire hall that has this responder housing, and I think it would be a really unique kind of a new thing to be the first one, in Canada to have something like this, a responder housing complex. And I'm not talking just firefighters. It can be for ambulance, it can be for RCMP, it can be for other fire departments, it could be for care aides, just the caregivers, people that need homes, to keep them here local.
Okay, right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And obviously, if Metchosin ends up being sort of next on the housing hit list from the province. This might be one way that, if it works, that we could mitigate that. Anyway, what should we do to proceed with this? Make a recommendation that staff include that in the feasibility study for the Firehall? To make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, thanks very much. I was wondering what we would do with it. I like everything you're saying. I guess it's incorporate the idea of housing. But what are we talking? What kind of housing is it? Affordable housing or sorry, what do we call it? Thank you.
So you can pretty much build any type of housing you want, but the funding requirements from the different funding programs that you would like to see most likely affordable housing or a mix of affordable and market housing. So it's not always 100% affordable, and affordable doesn't mean subsidized housing. Affordable means 20% below the market rate currently in your market area, in Metchosin. So that's typically what affordable is defined as. So it's not your $500 a month or your $375 a month rent for anyone. It's deemed just affordable. And in Vancouver, that means an affordable one bedroom is at $2,200. We're here, that's much different, right? So you would end up doing what's called a housing needs study to understand what this would mean for your area. One maybe already have been provided. So you could just work off those numbers or update those numbers. But again, affordable is typically the basis of what they require to secure the financing that you're seeing. Typically is about 51% of the units go as affordable and 49% of the units go as market. And so that's basically it. That's the only difference. So it's the win for everyone.
Yeah, thank you. All right, there is a motion on the table. Do we have a seconder?
So I'm unclear about the motion. So the motion is to ask staff to include the funding from the CMHC seed funding, the Property Development Fund, the Van City and FCM in the deliberations with the feasibility study, and to consider affordable accommodation above the Firehall. Is that what it is?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Ms. Tarnowski.
Would you like to make a recommendation for staff to have a conversation with the three agencies about obtaining the additional funding for the feasibility study?
Oh, right. Yes, that's we could add that to it. Be great. All right. Perhaps I think we've got it. You okay with it? All right. So can we have a seconder then?
Sorry, Councillor.
Oh.
I'm actually not clear on the motion. So we're talking about incorporating housing options into the feasibility study. I think that's one motion. And then the second one is...
I thought it could be
to have a
a
conversation with the three funders about the possibility of getting additional funding for the feasibility study.
Okay. I'll second the first motion.
Okay, thanks. Any further discussion on that one?
Just a really quick one. I mean, housing, just as Colin was saying, we should maybe keep it open and talk about housing options. And then as we move a little deeper, we can streamline it a little more. So
Yeah, decide whether or not we are interested or not.
Yeah.
Okay, any more? All in favor? All right, and the second motion is to, my mind is not completely blank, to ask staff to look at funding for the feasibility study. So,
I'll second it.
okay, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? All right, now we have another presentation, and it's nice to see a group of young people here. It's always great to have a few generations younger than what we usually are. So if you just come up and introduce yourselves and what you're going to talk about today.
Hello,
fellow people of the council. I'm Nathan.
I'm Emma.
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Max. We're 4 students from Brookes Westshore School, which is in Colwood, right by Royal Rose University. And we are here to pitch an idea for the Westmont prize competition that we have entered.
Okay, if you can just speak into the microphone, because what's happened is then it goes out, we're live streaming, so if you speak into the microphone, then everybody out there can hear you as well. Be great.
Here.
It's tricky.
Let me see if I can.
There it is.
So, as I said before, we are 4 students from Brookes Westshore School, and we're all in grade 8. And what we are here for is we have entered a competition called the Westmont Prize, which is open to people all over North America from grade 7 to 12. And we have to, there's usually a topic, and this year's topic is great problems equal great solutions. So we need to think of a problem that we have in our either world or community, and we need to try to solve it. So our problem that we tried to solve was that we found in Metchosin there's not as many sports facilities as we would like, and we found out that usually people who have disabilities or in wheelchairs, they can't be playing sports as well. So we wanted to make a solution that all people could benefit from.
Okay. So as Emma said, the Westmont Prize is a competition open to all students our age across North America. And we found that in Metchosin there is a lack of actual sports. And we feel that that's something that's really important to us, as well as people who are disabled. Okay, so this is a screenshot from Google Maps. And you might recognize it. It's the space right across from us, next to the Mile Zero Brewing place and the old school. We feel that would be a great place to build a space where we can have sports to all people, disabled and able. Yeah.
So our main idea is to make a wheelchair to play sports for people who use wheelchairs. And as you can see, soccer is at the top, and there's basketball and also a tennis court. There's already a tennis court there, but we hope to refurbish it. There's also a little communal space and storage and rental space.
So this is what it would look like if we actually put it on the space. So the soccer field at the top, then the basketball court, the tennis, communal space, and then the storage room.
So part of the Westmont Prize was that, but then we also had to come up with a way to allow people who are disabled to actually play sports. So our idea was we went onto an online platform that we have access to, and we created a 3D model of the wheelchair. And our main focus was, as Caleb just said, power soccer. Yeah. So power soccer is it's the same thing as original soccer, just in wheelchairs. So they do the exact same thing, just we don't have it on the island, and there's a lot of people and kids who are disabled and want to play sports, but it's not open to them. So yeah, as I said, we've designed a concept that we would like to bring and make it a reality.
So this is a rough copy of the wheelchair. there's a metal box in the front, so it's the actual wheelchair that they have, just bigger wheels so they can move better. And then there's a metal box so they can hit the ball to try and get it in the net. Yeah. And this is like multiple views of the wheelchair, and at the back it's just something so they don't fall over whenever they hit. It's just for stability. Any questions?
What would you like from council?
So the reason why we came here is for this project, we just wanted to communicate with different people, like in our community also. And we don't want like an affirm yes from you guys that yes, it's a great idea, we can put this in action. All we want is if you guys could be able to take it into consideration or even have like a quick thought on it. Like it doesn't have to happen like right now, but like maybe in the future, like one day this could actually be a reality.
Okay, anyone? Questions?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your presentation, each of you having something important to share with us. I am one of the councillors that sits on the board for the Westshore Parks and Recreation. And in a recent meeting, they were looking at other parts of our community, being the Westshore. It's Colin, Langford, Metchosin, Highlands that are on this board. And it did come up as to we do have a gymnasium and we have fields, so this is quite timely. Also, being a person that sits on the IACTI, which is the accessibility group, we're always interested in learning some different things about more accessible means of integrating people into our community. So I do appreciate what you have to say here. This is very good. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So did you guys invent power soccer? Is that a thing? It's a
Yeah, so it is a thing already. In Vancouver, I think it's a relatively big thing. They have a whole World Cup and everything,
okay.
But it's not accessible on Vancouver Island, and it's not widespread over the world. Yeah.
So your project is to develop the wheelchair or prototype the wheelchair, or is it to come up with the facility and the space, or is it a combination of both? Or?
It's a combination.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay.
Well, certainly it's something that we'll keep in mind as we move forward with the whole development of the school into the community center. I think it's we really appreciate you coming and sharing your ideas with us. Mayor Little?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm just wondering, with the Westmont Prize, how much is it? How much do they give you for your prototype design and follow through? Do you know?
Okay. So the prize for winning is the UVic. They come on board and help the idea come to life. And then also there's a prize for the top three. So first place is 10,000 to go towards academic funds, so 2.5K split between the group. Yeah.
Okay. And I imagine if you're applying for this prize, you might want to have a letter of support or something from the district. Would it help you if we get a council resolution, perhaps Council F, to provide you with a letter of recommendation that we are excited about the prospects of your entering into this Westmont Prize and that we're willing to support it? Would that be helpful?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be very helpful. One thing they do look for is like evidence that you have like made some like differences through the process so far, not even at the end. Just like there is evidence that you have like talked to different people and did your research on different things. So that would be very helpful.
Okay, Councillor Gray.
Thanks so much for the presentation. It looks like quite a project. I'm curious to know if you folks have been able to talk with some young people who are in wheelchairs. Have you got contacts that way? Because one of the things that would be really helpful, I think, in terms of your thinking about stuff and working through, is to work with some people who would benefit from the ideas that you've got.
Yeah. So at my church, St. Mary's, there's a guy called Gabe, and he's in a wheelchair, and he's the nicest guy. Like he's such a nice guy, but he is in a wheelchair. So he plays bocce, and with his day group and everything, but he just doesn't have the ability to play some of the sports that personally we love and enjoy to play every day.
Well, maybe it'd be nice to have Gabe sort of involved in some of the design issues.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, well, I think I can make a motion that the mayor, through staff, send a letter of support, yeah, for your project. So
Yeah, and we encourage you with in your application for the Westmont design.
yeah.
Prize. Great.
So we have a seconder for that.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor? All right. Well, thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your project. Okay, we'll move on to public participation.
Wow, it's kind of hard to follow that presentation. Tonight I'd like to share a few general thoughts with council regarding the committee report.
Could you please just give your name and
Oh, sorry,
address?
yep, Betty Hildreth, 859 Arden Road. And it's regarding the committee report entitled Elementary School Site Framework and Management. And thank you to staff for writing that report. It's brought a few things to light. I'm speaking here as a private citizen, not representing any particular group. These are simply my personal observations from where I find myself at this point in time. So for more than 30 years, I've quietly, yet enthusiastically, volunteered with many community groups, associations, societies, committees, initiatives. Some of them are sanctioned and some of them are not. I've witnessed the slowly evolving improvement that is shaping and tailoring this place where we live. We, like other communities around us, are at a pivotal point in maintaining what has been created as unique and grassroots. An arts and cultural strategy may be as good a place as any to serve as a launching pad for management of the school site as a whole, and ultimately as a vision for the village core. The three possible options outlined in the staff report are a good start, but there are a number of local management opportunities available as well, like really local, on-site, and economically viable opportunities that can be added to the list for discussion. And then missing from the report, or maybe coming from the report, is the problem of accessing our newly renovated auditorium, which has so much potential. And that needs to be strategized as well and as soon as possible. Building Metchosin's new Firehall will help in the future with congestion, scheduling, and the need for storage in the school site and on the grounds. But right now the gym is landlocked. The site, once known as Metchosin Elementary School, may not be the cash cow that some people seem to expect, but the gym, being accessible and properly promoted, believe me, it can be the goose that laid the golden egg. This gym issue could be looked at right away under the arts and culture framework of this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chris Vanderwater, 4569 William Head Road. And I'm here to laud your efforts in considering to have a arts and cultural strategy. I think it's a great idea to bring the arts into the community. It's very good for everything. And I got what was that? Because there's always a question about what is culture. We all know what culture is, but if you try to describe it, it's hard. And so I just stole this paragraph that I just want to read if it's okay. Culture can mean many things to many people. Simply put, culture is both the expression and celebration of the values and aspirations of a community. This is done through all manner of human activities that characterize a community and its people and shape its unique place. It includes the sharing of ideas, learning through individual and locally authentic community expression in the fine visual, literature, media material, and performing arts, heritage, and the sharing experience of history. To engage in cultural planning, therefore, requires knowing how people live, work, and play, and relate to their local environment. So it's a pretty encompassing, well, it's our culture. And so I wish you good luck with that, and look forward to seeing some positive outcome to this plan. Also, wanted to speak to the gymnasium, and it's coming on stream here in about 10 weeks, and there's still quite a bit to be done. But like Betty said, I'm also in favor of an on-site manager, because it's not just the renting of the gym, it's all the things that go with it, like make sure the doors are open, make sure the doors are locked, keeping wild animals out, telling people where to go. It's not your time, it's their time. It's endless. So that's why I think that the right on-site person could do it in a part-time. I think that probably be the most cost-effective way to address the gyms. If it's run right with a proper website, it could be very popular. Like there's lots of groups already that are talking to me and other people about how, what, when, why. So I urge you to get on with having something in place when it opens. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, last call for public participation. All right, then, move on to the adoption of the minutes of the Public Works and Public Services Committee meeting of September 11th. We have a motion. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any questions? All in favor? And then the receipt of minutes for the Healthy Community Advisory Select Committee meeting of September 26th.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Mayor Little. Any discussion? That one? All in favor? All right, we move on to the report. So we do have the staff report on the Metchosin Elementary School site and management. So Ms. Tarnowski, could you fill us in?
So the report essentially outlines what Ms. Hildreth and Mr. Vanderwater has expressed in the public participation session. It's meant to serve as an opening venue for discussion as to what has to be done with the school. We recognize that I know the community is very excited that the gym's coming on board really, really soon. So the report is really meant to outline the next steps and strategies and really high-level strategies of what to do to ensure that the space is going to be as available as possible to the community. So it's really just proposing that council or a committee in this case consider doing a visioning, call it whatever you vision, a workshop, strategic planning, whatever it is, but really just envisioning and setting priorities for the use of the space. And as I've said in the report, that there is some understanding in the community that prioritized use have been established by previous council, however staff was unable to find the resolution. So I'm really, as a starting point, is let's as community have that discussion of what the prioritized use is going to be. So that's the starting point, followed by having a discussion as to who is actually going to take bookings. That's one part of it. And the last part being having an on-site person, parties, whatever it is, to again to check the space, to make sure that unlock the space, all that kind of good stuff. So that's on-site presence. So as I see that, that's really a three-quarter process for the space.
Thank you, and I do appreciate having a staff report kind of getting us moving on this. I know there's a lot of different options for the management. I know personally I've got one option is to have to hire somebody, whether staff or by a contract, that could be sort of multi-purpose, that could work part-time as an assistant for the fire chief, who really needs help and has brought in about $2.5 million in grants, as well as considerable money that we've received in deployment of our really well-trained firefighters. So, so we have funding, part of it for sure, because we don't have to put that money out for other things. So anyway, and then that person could also work and some evenings and weekends and handle the booking for the gym and overseeing the management of the gym. So that's just one type of option. But at any rate, there are a few possibilities that need to be considered. And so with that in mind, I would like to make a motion that council hold a visioning workshop, possibly with the engagement of a facilitator, to set priorities for use of the school and grounds and discuss options for management and maintenance.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Shubin, second. Okay, discussion.
Thank you. So, thank you, Councillor. When I was thinking about this and reading the report, instinctively I wrote down some notes in just in terms of how I can think about the school site. And I'm so used to hearing, referring to the school, but you're not sure whether you're referring to the instinct portion, the MACA portion, the space in between, or the gym. And so I just thought to myself, I'm going to call it those things: MACA portion, instinct portion, the gym, and then the field, of course. But the one thing, I'm not necessarily opposed to the visioning exercise, but I think I'd like to really make the challenge clear. And I'm not sure that the challenge is with the whole building. I think that the big immediate challenge right now is to figure out how to manage the gym. And the more I learn about the school site, I recognize it's a really complicated space. But I'm wondering if right now our priority is figuring out how to manage the bookings of the gym. So again, I'm not opposed to what you're proposing, but I'm looking at what the priorities are, and that's what strikes me right now. So, and I have to also confess, I'm not really, I can't buy at this moment the development of an arts and cultural strategy. No disrespect, Mr. Tarnowski. I don't know if that's what we need at this moment for that site. So, but
well, I'm sort of thinking that's what the workshop would be about, is how we're going to move forward, what steps that need to be taken, kind of what are the priorities, what we're looking at, just so that we do actually get moving on it. We've been talking about it for a long time.
Okay.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, thank you. we have been talking about it, and quite a lot of work and volunteer work has gone into the building, which we purchased the whole building, the whole site actually in 2017. And there were a lot of visionaries at that time and through the years, and some of that has changed. We do have a portion of the building that is commercial and a portion of it that is arts and cultural. The boundaries, there seems to be boundaries. Those have changed over time. We had expected, I think, as a community for more commercial. In the spring, this council had spoken about having facility booking agents, so we temporarily contracted Instinct to do that for us, and that contract will be coming up fairly quickly in the next couple of months. So that's what I kind of was thinking this was about, although there is more information here. We talked about that so it would give us enough time to consider who or what a booking agent might be, and also considering the renovations that were taking place adjacent to the gymnasium, which is the washrooms and the kitchen, which is why we haven't booked out the gymnasium for things like small conferences, weddings, and those sorts of things, as well as recreational aspirations for our residents or what have you. There's a lot of potential there, but not to be limited. And I think having something like a workshop initially, or a working group, would help flesh out our next steps. And I applaud all the people that have, to date, been involved with that site and bringing it to where it is now. It was kind of a stumbler for a while. It is not, it's not right now operating in a fiscally, what would be the word? It's costing us money right now, and it will continue costing us money. We managed to move money back into the money that we borrowed back into the reserves that we borrowed it from, but we still are paying back, so to speak. So in how we're doing that is we are actually taxing the citizens of this community $42,500 every year. So we need to, after Mr. Chris Corr's presentation last November, I believe it was, November or December, go back and maybe have a good look at his report as well, and take into consideration some of the ideas that he had that would make it more fiscally attainable and bring it to the level of what this community. It is quite a gem. Like I say, there's been a lot of time and energy put into it to refurbish it. It needs to go to the next level, and having different kinds of management ideas is great. I think certainly an in-house would be the best, but I'm only one voice, and I really like to hear what the community has to say.
Well, you know, I think that a workshop would be which is of course open to the public, would be good, but Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I want to speak in favor of the motion. I think it's a great idea to get a vision or talk about this together and see where we might go. I note that our strategic plan has in it that we would develop a management and operational plan for the Metchosin Old School site. So it seems to me this is it. But if we start with a vision, overarching view, then the operational plan will fit in, you know, within that. So I see it makes sense. And I'm taking the note from staff. This it's not a difficult question, but it's a real question. Is community use first? Is recreational use first? Is commercial use first? That sort of needs to get sorted out, I guess, and that would be part. I like that because it will get sorted out. We've been asked about considering short term, like what about right now if we don't get all this work done? Maybe this is beyond the motion itself, but I'd say community first, community/recreational and commercial second. That's just my own view. But I take Councillor Donaldson's point of view, which is part of figuring this out. Vision and management plan does include finances, and then I too would support public ownership of this public running of the school, and so I sort of favor that option of in-house management. But I would look forward to the discussion.
Okay, Marilyn.
I'm also in favor of this motion and moving forward with some kind of strategic framework and long and short-term management of the facility. One of the things that was missing in this report was it didn't mention the training component. So this is an arts and culture center, but also a training facility. And I think any discussion, any visioning regarding the long-term goals, the vision, what the community wants, will have to also take into consideration the training component, that this is an important facility, and we've recently put money into that site towards the training, and I think we should stick by that. I'm also in favor of the option of a community-led committee to manage this school site that would report directly to council, and so that wouldn't be just MACA or just CERC or just groups. It would be a community group, a community action committee for management of that site, and they would be afforded some administrative support, of course, but so I would be in favor of that if that's would be in fitting with the in-house management. I think it would be great to have a community-led group to manage that, and if it doesn't work, well, in 9 months, 10 months, you could pivot and do something different. So anyways, I'll speak in favor of the motion.
Okay, we did at the previous council, which I mentioned very little will remember, that we did talk about priorities for the gym in particular, and it was and it did bring up the training center. It was as a community facility first, and then recreational, and as well as a training and community. In the case of emergency, a community center in that way. So, and then with the other things below that, so the commercial was kind of below those things, because really it was meant to be a community facility, I think originally when it was purchased. So anyway, if there isn't any more discussion.
Just one more.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just one more thought, and I very much appreciate the presentation by Chris Vandewater and Betty Hildreth on the issue of the arts and culture focus. But at the same time, I think we need to recognize it's bigger than that. As Councillor Schuch has mentioned, there's some commercial operations there. There's the sports side of things. So I'm kind of interested in the vision writ large, and within that is the art and culture piece, but also the other parts that we know of.
Right.
Again, not to down talk one aspect, but just to keep it all open for us as we move to a visioning exercise.
Okay, well now I think I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Okay, so we also have another staff report on grant applications, more grant applications, and perhaps Chief Dunlop, can you speak on this?
Good evening again. Yeah, we're just, we've had these same grants over the past, I think, 4 years now. They're the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund through UBCM. And so there's 4 different grants on there. They're all due. One is due here in, I think, about 4 days. And then the other ones are coming through, I think, to February next year. We just need council resolutions for them in application. And if you want to postpone, that's great. The one that we really are short time on is the one that we need to have in the next 4 days. We can process or submit the application without the actual resolution if that's to follow, as long as we have your approval on applying for the funding. For the fire department grant there in particular, the one that's coming up, we're looking to buy some additional equipment, which will hopefully reduce some of our capital expenditures as well. So.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Chief, Mayor Little?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I'm prepared to move the recommendation that council support by way of a resolution grant applications under the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund and the Community Resilience Investment Fund as summarized below in this report, with thanks to the fire chief for writing grants and bringing money into the community.
Great. Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any discussion?
Quickly.
Okay.
The chipping program, as it was operated. I don't think it ran, did it run this summer? Okay. We had, and it was fabulous. And we used it last year and it was amazing. They come in the middle of the night, but it disappears. Fantastic.
It is. All right, all in favor? Great. There you go. All right, this is my update, and my apologies for having this verbally instead of all written out as usual. I spent most of last week up in Port McNeill, where my trip for my birthday was a grizzly bear tour, which was really quite amazing. It was a couple of hours in a boat going up Night Inlet and then into a little estuary on a little tiny aluminum boat, and carrying on. And we did see five grizzly bears, and along with dolphins and porpoises and way too many humpback whales to even begin to count. So it was a very fun trip. All right, so on to and road safety. I'm really pleased to announce through ICBC we are receiving a grant of $7,350 toward a pedestrian activated crosswalk on Rocky Point Road for the Galloping Goose crossing near Matheson Lake. Grant needs to be used by the end of March, so hopefully we can get work done on that as soon as possible. Although currently we only have 2 public works staff, so they're definitely a little stretched. There is progress going on to hire another one, but with holidays and everything. But anyhow, hopefully they'll have some time to get going on there. And we're also going to get an engineering viewpoint on the best place to put a crosswalk between connecting the 2 municipal properties. So, we found that whenever we've had a big event like the Metchosin Community Day or the Ford Car Show, or basically, and the markets, that that people are trying to cross the road gets pretty hairy, scary. So we're going to, but it's a difficult area to figure out exactly where to put the crosswalk that's the safest for everybody. So we're going to be looking at that in the next week or 2. The Firehall Steering Committee, we had a meeting, and most of it was discussion about what we heard earlier from Mr. Doylend. And the Metchosin Senior Association, there's a meeting of the Metchosin Caregiver Support Group on Thursday, which apparently is pretty well attended and really helpful to all the people that do go there and share what's going on in their lives. The flu and COVID clinic will be held in the school gym on October 24th and 25th. The monthly Friday social is October 27th at the community house. And Laurie Stamen has left the center for her new job with the province. She was a wonderful presence at the center, and we'll really miss her, but we do wish her the best in her new job. So while the MSA searches for a new manager, it'll be open with volunteers in attendance from 1 to 3, Tuesday through Friday. There was a meeting of Metchosin stakeholders last month. There was representatives from 11 different groups around Metchosin. They're really great meetings with a lot of input from so many different areas of the community. Discussions this time included extreme heat management, summer wildfire risk, winter risks, climate change, the EOC emergency notification test, and Fire Smart. So thanks to Chief Dunlop for keeping the stakeholders groups going.
Councillor, sorry.
Yes, certainly.
What group is this? It's what's it called?
Well, it's the Metchosin. It's the stakeholders meeting. It's 4 times a year,
Okay.
right? And it's just gathering together the various everybody from William Head Prison to Header Bay to the church to the Seniors Association, just together talk about emergency planning. And issues that they might have, and just coordinating, facilities and supplies and communication.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
And Beecher Bay as well.
Yeah.
That's okay. Also attended a workshop recently called A Hot Topic: Impacts of Extreme Heat. The main focus was understanding vulnerability and how to help the community before, during, and after events. Some of the resources discussed were a health check tool that people can use to know when to call 911. They can just look at this and, if their symptoms show if they need help. And there's another one called a heat alert response system. There was quite a bit. There was a lot of provincial health representatives there, and it was quite interesting because when I was raving about all Metchosin's emergency things that we have going on here, and it's we're quite a bit ahead of the game as far as most other communities are with all our emergency measures in place. There was a meeting of CREST, which is the Capital Regional Emergency Service Telecommunications, links 50 response agencies and police service. There is going to be a bit of an increase for the next 3 years due to inflation. Other topics in the meeting were negotiations with the CRD, formulating a strategic plan and moving forward with a new building. Last week was a meeting with Dr. Connie Alsop, who is working through BC Healthy Communities on the topic Equity in Action, how leaders can champion inclusive policy making. A webinar set for November 8th dealing with creating health policies through an equity lens, basically asking the question, are voices being heard? And we did attend. Mayor Little, Councillor Gray, and I were at the Forum of All Councils on Saturday, which is basically a forum, invitation of First Nations and local politicians, other politicians, to promote understanding and reconciliation. I think that's pretty much it. So we also have, for correspondence, we have a letter from Eila Zylak about the crossing at Helgeson and other crossings. And then, of course, the presentations we have. So, at any rate, we will, receive those for information, and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor?